Well, hello. Thank you for sitting here, listening attentively and patiently. I believe some of you, if not all of you, must have seen them on television, right? Interpreting for our state leaders. And many people are wondering, keep asking the question, how can interpreters remember so many things? Today we are going to learn one of the skills that they share. So afterwards, you will see interpreting is really not a myth. Okay? But before we start, I would like to invite one of the students on the stage to do a small warming up activity together with me. Yeah, don't be afraid. I will not require you to be perfect. So do we have any volunteer? If no, I'm going to call one of you. How about the boy on my right-hand side, since you are closest to me? Okay, would you like to come on the stage? Here is the exercise we are going to do. I'm going to read a segment from an English passage. You are going to take notes on the whiteboard. After that, I need you to retell the passage in English. Okay? For the rest of the class, please do not sit idly. Prepare a piece of paper and a pen too, and try this exercise. Okay? Are we clear about the requirements here? Yes. Okay. And don't look at the material you've already got. Okay. It's a curious fact that 9 people out of 10 become more happier when faced with some small misfortune. On my first visit to America 35 years ago, a train in which I was traveling became stuck in a snowdrift, so that we did not arrive in New York until a great many hours after all the food on the train had been eaten up. I was beginning to expect that passengers would draw lots as to who should be eaten, but far from that, everybody was in the best of spirits. Okay? Would you like to retell this passage in English?
It is a curious fact that 9 of 10 people become happier when they faced with misfortune. And 35 years ago, when I was on a train traveling to New York, the train stuck in a snowdrift, and until it arrives New York after many hours later, before we ran out of food. And I expected the passenger to draw lots to decide who we should eat. But the people on the train were in bad spirits.
Okay, thank you. I think he has done a very good job in terms of retelling. But in terms of the scale we are going to discuss today, that's not good enough. Okay? I hope after what we are going to discuss later on, you will be even better than that. Okay. So here's what we are going to learn, note-taking in interpreting. But you know, note-taking is a very systematic and quite complicated skill in interpreting, so we will only be able to touch upon the very basics of how to take notes, okay? Of how to take notes. In terms of the objectives we are having today, 2. The first one, you will know how to screen information. Okay, in your note-taking. That is to say, what kind of information shall remain in your note-taking and what kind of information shall we abandon in our note-taking. Secondly, know how you can arrange information on your notepad. I will be talking about 4 major principles that I would advise you to follow, but not strictly obey. Okay, so here is the objective. 1 question. Did you manage to write down every single word I said in the passage? Not really, right? So you already observed that in interpreting, we can't write down everything. And then if not, what do you think shall remain in your note-taking? You can check the notes you've just written down, see what kind of information have you got in your note-taking. Okay, how about this gentleman?
Some nouns.
Nouns.
And statistics.
Statistics, you mean figure?
Yes.
Okay. And?
Some process.
Some process. What do you mean by process? That's a very abstract thing here. Okay, but already good enough of what you said. Nouns and figures. Each interpreter, professional interpreter, will have their own way of taking notes. They will write more or less, but here is some general advice I can give you. Again, it's not for you to obey, just suggestion. The first thing is SVO structure, which often carries the key message of the source text or the source speech. Secondly, logic and links. You should write down the links, the connection between the first layer of message and the second layer of message. Otherwise, you will be only speaking individual fragmental sentences without logical relation between them. Okay? Third one, important descriptive adjective and adverbs, important ones. We'll touch upon that later on. And then verb tense and modality. Why? You have to know whether the thing the speaker is describing has already happened, is going to happen, or should have happened but never happened. So you should make clear, be accurate in that. Okay? And then figures, as you mentioned earlier on, figures, time, place, and proper nouns, which are not closely and logically related to the context. It will be very stressful for our short-term memory to remember all of them, so we should write them down. And the last thing is enumeration or list, okay? 列举的时候, right? Enumeration. These are the things you are advised to write down when taking notes. But whatever you choose to write, always remember, idea beats words, which is to say, we are trying to note down the message, the information, instead of individual meaningless words, okay? So this you should bear in mind. Now you've known already what you should give priority to when you are taking notes. How did you arrange the information on your notebook? That is to say, how should you use a blank piece of paper to write your interpreting notes? Maybe you can see some of the rules here. Horizontal, 横着写的, right? English, a lot of English words, as you can see. We can see some, but what are the general practice? What is the rule? What are the principles of taking notes? 4 of them I would like to introduce to you. Verticality, indentation, stacking, and separation. I will go to each of them one by one. Okay, let's just say we have got a blank piece of paper. The first one, verticality, means you are advised to write SVO in this way. Okay? Oh, shoot. Okay, in this way. Diagonal, vertical way, instead of like this. Okay? Try to do that way, SVO. And then, secondly, indentation means the left-hand side of your notepad should have some empty space for what? For the logical links. Okay, logical words, things like that. And the third one is stacking, especially for enumeration. When you hear things of the same relation or belong to the same group of parallel relationship, try to write them in a vertical way. Okay? For example, earthquake, volcano, blah, blah, blah. And you can also add a brace to quote to show that they belong to the same level. Okay? This is what is meant by stacking. And the last one is separation, very easy. After each layer of meaning, draw a line. After you finish each of them, SVO, draw a line. So you will have a very clear picture of each message, right? So 4 basic principles of the layout, how to arrange your note-taking. Okay, clear about them? Any question? Now, let me show you just one example of my note-taking. As you will be able to see, a little bit empty space on the left-hand side, and then stacking here, okay, 叠加的地方, to quote, to show they are together, separation, right, separation, okay? And also, I'm trying to write in a vertical way instead of always horizontally, right? So just an example to show you. But you know, interpreting note-taking is a systematic thing. And in real life, we don't have much time to really practice all these things. But this serves as just a suggestion for you, okay? And the training stage of interpreting note-taking can be divided into two. The first one is we'll look at passages and take notes. Then you move on to listen to passages and take notes. Also, we will have retelling, note-taking and retelling, and then note-taking and interpreting, right? So we'll take the steps to make you have a better idea of how this works, how to screen information, how to arrange information works. We are gonna do one exercise. I'll lead you through one exercise. We will look at this sentence and take notes, which you already heard just now. And we will do this in 3 steps, okay? The first step is we will write down all the SVO here, okay? All the SVO. As you see, this sentence is a complex sentence. It has both main clause and subordinate clause. We are going to write out all the SVOs in it. So first step, what is the SVO? What is the first SVO? It's a fact, right? Pay attention to the structure here. It is fact, okay? And draw a line. And then that, what is the SVO there? 9 out of 10, 9/10. 人, right? Become. And then happier, okay? Draw a line too. When faced with small misfortune, face, here the subjective is omitted, right? Misfortune, we'll just write 灾. Maybe it's difficult for you to see, but I don't want to wipe out the notes taken by the boy. We'll have a comparison, okay? So this is the first step, write out all the SVO. And secondly, we'll write down other important information that may not be contained in the SVO. For example, what kind of thing shall we add? Or can we add? Curious, right? Important adjective we said earlier on. So we can add curious and anything else? Small? 小. Okay, we'll put it there. And the third step would be crossing out redundant information. Crossing out redundant information. Which kind of information do you think we can cross out? Do we need is? Maybe no, right? So we can cross this out. And do we need eat? No, right? And become happier. 9/10 of people become happier. Anything to be crossed out? Become, right? You don't need become. You will know it's talking about becoming when you see this, right? Okay, anything else? Maybe it's fine so far, right? And now let me wipe out these things you already crossed out. Okay. Now we have only this much for the sentence, comparing with here. Okay? It's simple, but are you able still to recall the meaning of this sentence by looking at the note-taking here only? Yes or no? Yes, right? BS. So these are the 3 steps that we are trying to have you practice when you are starting to learn interpreting note-taking. Okay, but in real life, we don't have the time to really break sentence down, right? And we don't have time to really look at the sentence and take notes. But these steps can serve a good purpose for beginners when you are starting to learn note-taking, to teach you or to get you familiar with how you can screen information and how you can arrange information on your notepad. Always try to write in a vertical way, separation, and try the key information only instead of complete English and horizontally, okay? So 3 steps. To make you get more familiar with this thing, we'll do one more exercise still. One sentence already read to you earlier. You can work by yourself, follow the 3 steps we just mentioned, SVO, and then important information, and then crossing out the redundancy. After you finish this, please check with your desk mates, if I can say, to see whether there is any improvement in your own note-taking, okay? Let me give you just 1.5 minutes. Okay, you can work on it. And try to write it in a vertical way instead of horizontally. Okay, that is good. Yeah, the line. I see you are following the 4 principles quite well. Good. Oh, you should try to draw a line right after each sentence. Okay, now the next step is you have to cross out all the redundancy there, right? I see you are in the 3rd step of crossing out redundancy. You can check with your desk mate to see whether you are crossing out the same thing. Okay. I see at least you have a clear idea of the principles, right? To make a brief summary, we learned that in interpreting note-taking, you can't possibly write down everything. Then you have to know how to screen information, SVO, logical links, enumeration, etc., right? And then how to arrange information, 4 principles: verticality, stacking, indentation, and separation. Okay, 4 of them. I will not go along with the rest of the exercise. As for the assignment, please finish the rest of the article, Why We Enjoy Mishaps, with the 3 steps we mentioned, okay? And bring your notes next time to class so we can share to see for any improvements. And then share with the class some difficulties you have come across in your own note-taking exercise, okay? Okay? Well, that shall be all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this teaching. I'm going to ask you 2 questions.
Yeah.
The first one is probably a little bit more, somewhat sort of technical.
Okay.
As you were sort of demonstrating to the students how they should be doing note-taking, and you actually, as you can see on the board there, you use both English and Chinese.
Yes.
You have qi, you have ren there.
Yeah.
And that, of course, raises the question: what language we should use when we, do note taking? Shall we do it in English only, or Chinese only, or in whatever language you feel comfortable with at that moment? Do you think that's a issue you should probably, discuss with the students? If you think you should do that, why didn't you do it?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your question. Actually, interpreting language, note-taking language in English or in Chinese, or sometimes we say in the source language or in the target language, is a heated discussion. There are many conventions internationally. Let me first ask about whether I should teach students. Yes, I should. Why didn't I do it? Because I don't have the time today. So I said we'll touch only upon the very basics of how. Okay. I did. In my teaching, usually I will teach students. I'll talk to them whether which language should you use. That's the first part of my answer. Secondly, in terms of the selection of target language or source language or whatever other ways of note-taking, international convention is to write in the target language, since we can do a little bit transfer in our note-taking. When we come back to read our notes, we will do less this transfer or translation, okay? However, for Chinese students, of course, we tend to write in the source language. When we are listening to Chinese, we tend to write in Chinese. When we are listening to English, we tend to write in English. We try to let the students avoid doing so, but it's quite difficult, and I will tell them it depends on you, whichever comes first.
Thank you very much. I think you've answered my question because we are running out of time.
Yeah.
It's not a seminar here. Thank you, but I knew. Thank you for sharing this with us. Another question is more related to your teaching. You gave an exercise to the students to so that they can sort of practice the procedures you've taught them, and as part of the assessment of your effectiveness of teaching, you asked their peers to check with them, to sort of check with their peers to see whether they've done this correctly. Do you think that you can actually trust the students to assess the results of their work? Is it possible that we might, fall into the possibility of the blind leading the blind?
I see. Thank you. Again, here the peer check or peer review of the note-taking exercise is not really a way of assessment here. I wouldn't ask the students to assess whether they are writing notes in a correct way or in a proper way or not. Just want them to check after what we've said about the 3 steps, about the principles. Are they writing well? Are their peers writing well? Have they known it clearly about the principles? Given time, I would share my version too with them and have more discussion on this thing. But this checking thing is just to let them see how well the other students are doing, and then see for some improvement that they can add in their own note-taking.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor.